go ahead.
Hello, my name is Blake Dauphin. Thank you for your time in attending this presentation about United Airlines and their removal of a passenger, David Dow, in 2010 at the Chicago airport. This presentation is going to be about analyzing this crisis that United Airlines experienced and how they used image repair theory to restore their public image. And next slide. The agenda for this presentation is as follows. We're going to begin by discussing what image repair theory is, and we're also going to define and discuss what a crisis is and what a crisis communication plan is. We will then inform the audience of the United Airlines crisis, and then we will evaluate a timeline of their response, and then we will evaluate Munoz and United Airlines' response methods, and we will wrap this thing up by assessing what they did good and how they can improve. To start, let's define image repair theory, crisis, and a crisis communication plan. Image repair theory is a technique that is used by organizations in hope to restore their image and reputation to the public and in their industry. Next, we have a crisis. A crisis, according to Zaremba, is a major, unpredictable event that can affect an organization and its employees. Next, we have crisis communication plan. A crisis communication plan is a predetermined plan that a company has prepared prepared to use in the event of a crisis. Companies can have different crisis communication plans, each designed to combat a certain crisis. It is important to note that every company should have a crisis communication plan. There are numerous crises in the world, and it is impossible for a company to prepare for each and every one of them, but a company should prepare for those crises that are most likely to occur. Next, we have image repair strategies. There are different strategies or approaches that can be used to restore an organization's image. There isn't just one way to do so. There is actually 5 primary ways, which are denial, evasion of responsibility, reducing offensiveness, corrective action, and mortification. Denial is a strategy used whenever a company defends themselves. Next, we have evasion of responsibility, which is whenever a company evades responsibility of a crisis occurring. Then we have reducing offensiveness, which happens when an organization downplays the event. We have corrective action, which happens when an organization vows to fix the crisis and to take action to make sure that it does not happen again. And lastly, we have mortification. This is when a company acknowledges their wrongful act and they apologize and just want to move on. United Airlines vs. David Dow. I'm going to begin by explaining the situation. What happened was in 2010, a United Airlines flight was overbooked due to having to travel crew to the destination. The destination was in Kentucky, and it was the last flight out of the evening. So United Airlines offered compensation to any passengers that would be willing to give up their seat and fly out the next day. Unfortunately, no passengers were willing to do so, so the airline was forced to randomly remove passengers. David Dow was one of those passengers. The others voluntarily got up when selected, but he refused to give up his seat, which resulted in airport security having to remove him. The event turned into a physical confrontation, and it was very bad. It was very bad for United. And on April 9th, videos of airport security removing Dow surfaced onto the web. And the next day, on April 10th, United released a statement from Munoz via Twitter. And then the next day, on the 11th, Munoz issued another apology, and he vowed to release findings by April 30th over the incident. On the 12th, Munoz appeared on Good Morning America, and information also surfaced that Dr. Dow had previously lost his medical license, and he was working to regain that license, and that was one of the reasons he was so adamant about not giving up his seat on that flight. On April 15th, United responded to Dow's attorney stating that they would never use law enforcement again to remove passengers from their flights. And on April 16th, United had a new overbooking policy, and that policy stated that no seated customers can be removed from the flight. I think that United Airlines did good by being quick to respond to the crisis, but they did a poor job in having an effect with their messages. Image repair strategies used. I believe that they used two different image repair strategies. The first one being mortification and the second being corrective action. It was stated before that Munoz apologized multiple times for the crisis, and then corrective action on Good Morning America. In Oscar Munoz's interview, he stated that they lacked training with frontline employees for situations like this one, and that he vowed to get them their training so something like this would not happen again. Next, we have Munoz's response. He received backlash for apologizing for quote-unquote re-accommodating passengers. I personally felt that Munoz appeared genuine in his Good Morning America interview, but critics claim that he lacked empathy. He mentioned that he didn't give a full response to the event for a couple days because he wanted to gather all of the facts before releasing a lengthy statement on the crisis. He admitted that his initial words fell short of the feelings of his own and his co-workers at United, and he reiterated that United is a family with the workers and their clients. I believe that he conducted a good interview and appreciated that he admitted that the event occurred to not training their frontline for situations like this one. We now have the analysis of the response. I think that United did a poor job showing empathy for the situation, but I do think they did good by making multiple statements regarding the matter. But I believe that it's a good idea to stay engaged with your audience if your statements are effective. But if they're not going to be effective and they're not going to show empathy or compassion, that you're best off just to remain silent. I think that it was good that Oscar Munoz met with the Chinese consulate. China is a major revenue earner for United. This event caused protests for United in the US, Vietnam, and China. They received protests in Vietnam due to Dr. Doa being a Vietnamese American, and protests in China because they're a major form of travel through China. $1 billion a year in revenue comes from China alone. I did not find any findings of compensation offered to Dow after the incident, but I believe that's because it's an ongoing legal case now. And like I mentioned before, their two response methods were mortification and corrective action. My overall assessment of this incident was that they could improve by showing empathy, and they could improve by being able to relate to their customers better. But some of the things that I believe that they did well was they responded to situations quickly, and that they used social media and interviews on TV to address the crisis. I believe that Oscar Munoz going on Good Morning America was a great way for them to address the crisis, as it showed that they weren't running from it, and you were able to see him more raw and really get his feelings on the situation rather than them just typing something up and releasing it. I would like to thank you guys for attending this presentation, and I hope that you all learned something about image repair theory.